securing your cloud applications and the environment that you're working in really is up to you. And so this is really providing some tips along those lines. So the first one they point out is that, I mean, this is a quote from the article here, don't let the developers run the show. I don't think that's exactly, I mean, it's a little insinuative, but really what it comes down to is, creating cloud images ahead of time that the developer organization or that the application developers would use with the basic security practices and configurations in place so that you don't have to be worried about the developers doing those things. So I think that perhaps a better way of describing this is don't depend on the development team that's under pressure to create features and get applications out there to actually be, I mean, they may be interested in security and doing it right, but it's not necessarily their priority. So you have to do some things ahead of time or behind the scenes to help them out in doing that. So, and this is very similar to the practices that we've been putting into place in terms of our use of cloud activities as well, so very consistent. And then the second thing they sort of point out is make sure you provide a separation between the test environment, that is set up a cloud infrastructure for test and a cloud infrastructure for applications. Try to keep those things separate because you don't want a flaw in the development to be able to extend into your production applications. Second one, very straightforward, take away the user accounts. That is, if you, particularly when you're starting to mechanize and automate things, create accounts that are specifically for APIs and give them only the privileges that they need. So we call that the concept of least privilege or separation of duties in a sense that we implement as a part of our policies, good practices in general. And with the opportunities that APIs provide you, it gives you an opportunity to really constrain and actually understand what a particular user should be able to do. It makes the security analyst's challenge much more simple because anything outside that bound should be a strong flag of a problem. The next one here is basically use the tools that are made available to you. A cloud service provider, a good cloud service provider, and by the way, I think these are attributes that you want to look for in a cloud service provider. That is, they may have certificate management functions, encryption tools, hardware security modules, for storing keys, and I think that's kind of an important thing. That is, when you're trying to protect private keys, having hardware that's designed for that really helps to prevent, Heartbleed was a big problem because the OpenSSL library could potentially expose the keys. If your keys are protected in hardware, it helps to prevent you from that kind of a threat. So having a hardware module for doing that. FIPS 140 basically specifies requirements for that type of thing. And then, web application firewalls. You want to be able to put a firewall in front of your thing. We have a big program internally to virtualize security functions around cloud applications. So those are some of the things that you might want to look for. Treat security like software development. That is, security needs to be tested just like the software needs to be tested. And if you find problems with it, treat it like it's a system outage, just like anything else. I know I recall basically using this scenario like a person has had a problem with their computer and they'd say, what am I supposed to do? Well, pretend it caught fire. How would you treat that situation? And it's a similar kind of scenario here. Treat security issues as importantly as any other type of a system outage or something like that. Don't forget the non-security tools. We've been talking a lot about mass destructive malware. It's one of our fundamental predictions. It's certainly ransomware has been an issue. So make sure you back up the data, either mirrored or keep it offline, those types of things. And then last but not least, you remember the basics. Anything that's exposed to the internet, particularly when you're working in a cloud environment, the tendency will be that you're going to have administrative interfaces that are perhaps exposed to the internet. There are probably controls that you can put in place to say, I'm only going to be coming from this address, so use that firewall to your advantage. But on top of that, use multi-factor authentication to make sure that somebody can't be successfully doing password guessing attacks. Have we ever talked about password guessing attacks on this program?
I don't think we, no, of course we have.
I think we have. I think just 2 weeks ago, Jim Clausing went through a big dissertation on and a very interesting one on password guessing activity. So, use unique accounts per user, no root access without first logging in as a normal user. And it basically, as I said earlier, least privileges. So lots of good suggestions. I've been kind of rambling here, but it was a very short article, very much worth the read. We'll provide the URL. And I recommend that, like I said, if you're going to cloud or doing things in cloud, make sure you have some good cloud-specific practices in place. Many of them are really basic, just good practices overall, but I think deserve that cloud perspective.